Heyo guys, this is a story about what if Naruto, the melt. As a child, Naruto is taken in by Sarutobi to be his chosen successor to the mantle of Hokage. He develops a bloodline long thought lost to the world and learns along the way that, though he may be hated for his demon, his will of fire will burn brightly. And let's see what changes will come to Naruto verse, but before we start, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel for more what ifs and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let us start.
Chapter 13. Assassin in Training, and here's Chapter 13. Updates will still be slow for me, but faster than some of my fellow YouTubers. Hope you enjoy. Readers, reviewers, thank you. Chapter 13. Naruto followed Sarutobi closely as he was led to a place he'd never been before. Oh, he'd been in the general vicinity. Anko had taken him to the Forest of Death many times just to cut him up in private. Training Ground 44 was her own little sanctuary. Listening to her talk about the cute, fuzzy animals or the beautiful foliage made it sound like a zoo or the botanical gardens. Of course, that was not the case at all. Anko's cute, fuzzy animals were cousins of Bengal tigers that were the size of freaking elephants. Her beautiful foliage could actually eat a man. Eat a man. Needless to say, Naruto thought his eccentric sensei was more than a little off in the head. He missed Guy already. Sarutobi unlocked a gate that Naruto had never been shown before, and the two went down a set of stairs into a stone walkway. Naruto noticed that there were lights only every few feet, giving off a very creepy ambiance. He kept close to his grandfather, hoping that wherever he was being taken, they would arrive soon. Eventually, after walking for what seemed like forever, they reached a heavy steel door, which Sarutobi opened by channeling the chakra into a seal. As the door began to swing open, light filtered in around the edges until it opened fully, the glare from the sun letting them know they were back outside. Naruto rubbed his eyes, getting used to the brightness after being inside the tunnel. He looked around with bleary eyes to find Anko sitting on a large rock in the middle of a grassy field, eating dango and drinking red bean soup. As his vision became more and more normal, he took a better glance at his surroundings. Not far in the background were the enormous trees of the Forest of Death. The field they were standing in was particularly peaceful, and that alone bothered him. With Anko around, nothing was ever peaceful. He saw her hop off the rock and walk toward his grandfather, who had an eerie smile on his face to match hers. Anko placed one foot in front of the other, swinging her hips as she walked, like she was on a model's runway. The leer she gave Naruto made him cringe and sighed, dreading what he knew was going to be an awful time. Sarutobi was starting to get a little hot under the collar and was starting to wonder if he'd made the right decision in entrusting Naruto to such a woman. Anko bowed to the Hokage and righted herself again to look at her pupil. Her smirk could have made a statue of marble wince. It was the same smirk that always promised pain for Naruto. Have you informed him why he's here yet, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi shook his head and motioned for Naruto to step forward. The blonde did so reluctantly, having no idea what he was in for. He took a deep breath and looked his sensei dead in the eye. Anko took note of this and smiled. Points for courage, brat. Now, Hokage-sama, please inform him why we're all here. Sarutobi coughed into his hand, getting Naruto's attention, and put his hands behind his back. Naruto, it is my decision that you will now begin to learn about the ways of the assassin from Anko. She will teach you everything she knows. Everything. You will learn how to kill properly, and you will learn how to interrogate people. Your Kekkei Genkei makes you our most able assassin ever, and you will have to embrace this role. I know you don't like to kill, and that is good. Never enjoy it, but realize that it is an important part of your job. Your sessions with Anko will take precedence over all your other arrangements. This is your new assignment. Naruto nodded and turned his attention back to Anko, who was uncharacteristically serious. All right, Naruto. As Hokage-sama said, after school, you're mine. I'm going to show you everything there is to know about being an assassin. How to kill properly, how to leave no trace of your presence, how to get information out of a prisoner, how to be a proper assassin. I'm going to run you into the ground, and once I can't pound you into the ground anymore, you'll dig your own hole just to try to get away. Naruto's eyes widened the more she explained, and he turned to his grandfather to find him deadly serious. He was actually going to be an assassin. He didn't know what to think. His thoughts were broken by Anko snapping her fingers in front of his face. Wake up, brat. Can't have you drifting off like that during training. Not all of our training will be physical. Oh, that'll be a big part of it, but we'll be doing mental training as well. My colleagues and I will be showing you how to keep your emotions in check on a mission. You don't have to be a cold killer, but you need to learn when to rein in your emotions. She began to pace back and forth, never breaking eye contact with her students. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate your target with minimal evidence you were there. With your ability, you should be the most effective assassin ever. We're going to have to up your training with your Kekkei Genkai as well. You'll need to be able to melt in and out of your environment on a whim. Those overgrown butterknife you carry. That's gonna get a workout as well. Naruto's eyes were cutting back and forth as she paced, nervous as to how this would turn out. Anko stopped in front of him again and leaned down to eye level. You will do everything I say to perfection. I will expect nothing less from you. By the time this year is up, you'll be the best genin to ever come out of Konoha. We'll worry about the best ninja when you can actually beat some of your senseis. She smirked as she stood upright and put a hand on his head, ruffling his hair. Don't worry, kid, we're gonna have a lot of fun. And if you're a good boy, maybe I'll give you a treat. She disappeared suddenly and draped herself over his shoulders, tapping a kunai to her heartbeat on his cheek. Naruto grit his teeth and steeled himself. He wouldn't let her get to him. Anko took the kunai away and rubbed her cheek against his. Just think, Naru-chan. For the next year, you're all mine. The blonde stifled a whimper and looked to his grandfather for help, only to find that the man had a slight nosebleed from the sight before him. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Time for some revenge. He shrugged his shoulders hard, ridding himself of Anko, and put his hands in the ram seal. Hey Gigi. Check this out. Oiroke no jutsu. Sarutobi's clouded mind barely registered the words, sexy jutsu, and he turned to the billowing cloud of smoke as Anko hopped back. His eyes widened to impossible degrees as he rocketed backward from his nosebleed. There was a full-grown blonde woman with his grandson's whiskered cheeks, boobs of impossible proportions, naughty bits covered by the tiniest bit of smoke. Naruto struck a provocative pose and turned to Anko, blowing her a kiss. I told him I'd get him. He had that coming. What are you looking at? Anko was looking at him with a devilish glaze to her eye. She licked her lips and grinned savagely. I like you naked as a female. Very hot. But, I wonder, are you just as hot as a guy? Naruto made a choking sound and let the henge drop. Anko advanced on him quickly with her kunai at the ready. Hold still and let me cut some clothing off. Hell no. Anko missed a swipe and growled as Naruto dove headfirst for a tree and melted inside. She pounded on the bark for a while until Sarutobi laid a hand on her shoulder, his nosebleed and the evidence of it miraculously gone. He's not here anymore, Anko. He's more than likely already home. Let's call it a day. Anko pouted like a 2-year-old, but followed him toward the tunnel. Sarutobi glanced back over his shoulder with a stern look. Not one mention of what happened here today. I'll demote you to D ranks for the duration of the year. Anko pouted even more. She'd hoped to at least have a small bit of leverage against the old man with that little bit of knowledge. The following day came and went and Naruto found himself walking down that dimly lit tunnel to that field to meet Anko. He was excited to train with Anko, but at the same time, he was scared stiff. This was his biggest step toward adulthood yet, and another huge step toward assuming his duty as the next Hokage. He channeled the chakra into the seal on the door and closed his eyes as it slid open. Once the light had subsided, he could make out Anko sitting on the rock again. When she saw Naruto, she shunshined in front of him and stared down at him. Once again any humor in her face was gone. All right, brat, listen up. No more games. No more teasing you. We're in this for real now. From this moment on, it's you and me. Some of the things I'm going to teach you will be hard to stomach, but I know you can handle it. Are you ready? Naruto straightened his backbone and nodded with determination. Anko kept up her stern look and motioned for him to follow her. She leapt onto the rock again and patted the place in front of her. Naruto sat down opposite her and crossed his legs. Anko looked off out into the forest, somewhat distant, before turning back to her student. Naruto, the path that has been chosen for you is hard. I know that Hokage-sama has told you this before, but the path of an assassin is especially hard. It's hard on the body and it's hard on the mind. Any of those who have been in Anbu can tell you this. It's how you decide to cope that determines how your life turns out. Naruto nodded and raised his hand. Anko sighed as she slapped his hand down. This isn't school. Just ask your question. How do you cope with ninja life? Anko put her finger on her chin and grinned maliciously. I embrace the blood. Instead of letting it get to me, I revel in it. Is that healthy? Anko shrugged and let the grin slide off her face. It's better than curling into a ball and mumbling to yourself in a padded room. My way isn't everyone's way, Naruto. Guy copes by training himself to exhaustion. Kakashi, who I assume you've met, reads those little smutty books of his. My colleague, Ibiki, who you'll meet later, copes by letting his sadistic streak out on prisoners. We all cope in our own way. Naruto sat in silence for a moment, before looking Anko in her eyes. How should I cope? In whatever way leaves you with a smile on your face at the end of the day. Our way of life isn't easy, Naruto. You've already taken a life. That's good. But, that was in defense of your mother. You've yet to take a life in the name of your village, because it was your job to do so. I'm going to change that though. Naruto's eyes widened. Surely she didn't mean, you're not going to take me on a mission, are you? Anko smirked as she stood up, beckoning him to do the same. Yes, I am. I've already cleared it with Hokage-sama as soon as I deem you ready. Now, let's start. We've got a long way to go. We'll start with that toothpick on your leg. Show me how you can handle it again. Naruto drew his field knife and got into a strong stance, the blade forward. Anko repeated the gesture with a kunai and the two lunged forward. Naruto learned a lot in his time with Anko. While during the day, he was your normal, attentive student, as normal and attentive as he could be. At night he trained to be the best of the best. Anko drilled everything into his head twice over. He knew the best way to a man's heart was not through the stomach, but in the most painful way possible, at least, according to Anko anyway. Anko, to her credit, having never taught anyone before, was incredibly pleased with her student. They'd been at it nearly 3 months and she'd come to the conclusion that the boy was a natural. He just needed to be guided in the right direction. She nearly sighed when she thought back to how they'd started. Naruto, being young, had thought that assassination required the use of cool moves and neck snaps. While true in some cases, Anko had broken him off those illusions quickly. So, let's say that your target is in a room, guarded by 4 Junin-level shinobi. He's asleep on his bed at the moment, totally dead to the world. Your mission is to eliminate him and then bring his head back as proof of the kill. How would you go about doing this job? Naruto thought for a moment before starting. I guess I'd eliminate the guards first. Stab them through the heart and break their necks, something like that. Then I'd go in, kill the target, and cut his head off. Anko glared at her charge and whacked him over the head several times with a magazine she'd been holding. No, no, no. Damn, Naruto, show a little bit more imagination. You have a Kekkei Genkei that would have made that easy and you never mentioned it once. I'm sure you intended to use it, but details are everything in assassination. Name some assassination moves. Okay. There's interdecapitation, stab through the heart, cut the neck, stab to the brain, sever the spinal cord, Chidori. Anko held her hand up, signaling for him to halt. Stop. Never mention Chidori again as an assassination move. But, why? It's classified as an assassination move. It should be included. She narrowed her eyes and glared at him. Since you know the name of that move, I'll assume you know why it's called Chidori. Naruto nodded in affirmation. That's exactly why it shouldn't be called an assassination move. It's too damn noisy. Your target will hear you coming a mile away. That's nothing but a fancy elemental jutsu that Kakashi likes to flatter himself into thinking is used for assassination. His target has to be nearly completely immobile, his hidden Sharingan eye has to be active, and he needs a short moment to prepare the jutsu. To me, that's not very useful. Naruto nodded slowly, letting the information sink in. Anko chose her next words carefully. Not that it isn't a useful jutsu. It's just insulting to me as an assassin to have that move labeled as being in my line of work. By the time Kakashi is through posturing and making the hand signs, I could have already buried a kunai in the target's heart and began to cut his head off. I'm going to teach you how to kill the old-fashioned way, with your Kekkei Genkei thrown in. If you can become an excellent shinobi without the use of jutsus, imagine what you could be when you use them when you have to. Naruto's eyes widened at the thought and Anko decided to end the lecture there. Glad you understand. I was getting tired of talking. Now let's go. I'm going to show the places where you can bleed a person out, by using you as an example. They'd covered a lot in such a small time. It helped that the boy was a sponge, soaking up literally everything she told him. And Anko had been true to her word. She'd shown him everything she could. How to hold the knife properly when you went for the heart. How to cut and leave minimal evidence and blood loss. How to cut the head of a target off cleanly. How to kill without using any chakra at all. Anko had drilled it all into him by using him as an example, or rather, his shadow clones. When the information came back to him upon their departure, he would nod to her and then proceed to mimic her over and over on his clones. It was strange in a way, killing yourself over and over, but it was necessary. Each time, he would get the information feedback and adjust the way the blade went in slightly, until it flowed in smoothly. He'd learned quickly that there were certain things you just didn't do. Neck snapping was a quick way to kill someone, yes, but a trained ninja could hear the snap and come investigating. Then you were in trouble all over again. Stealth was silent, plain and simple. Anko had given him the target situation again a few weeks later and Naruto had gone into more detail. He would bypass the guards with his Kekkei Genkei and come up underneath the target as they lay asleep. He would melt into the mattress and clap his hand over the man's mouth as he drove his field knife into his brain. The death would be silent and quick, with minimal blood loss. While the guards were still outside, he would cut the man's head off, seal it into a scroll, and melt back into the floor, leaving no trace. Anko had never been more proud. The boy was finally showing promise in the field of killing. Practical application was the next step. But before that, she wanted him to know how to interrogate an enemy in the field, if information was required. Anko wanted her pupil to be so well-rounded that he'd put circles to shame. She decided that she would need Ibiki's help for this, since their approaches were so different. It had been 3 months since Anko's declaration that he would learn the assassin's lifestyle. He'd been living a double life, joking with his friends by day, learning the best way to kill by night. It had been hard, but he was coming along. The two were currently in a dimly lit room watching as Ibiki worked over a ninja from Kumo that had been caught inside Konoha's borders. Anko held her hand on Naruto's shoulder to let him know that she was with him as he watched Ibiki pick the man apart. Ibiki started by tying the man to a chair and forcing his head up as he asked all manner of seemingly inane questions. This was to make the man feel that Ibiki didn't know what he was doing, that he was green at interrogating. But Ibiki was planting seeds of doubt in the man, seeds that he would nurture, and when they were ready, they'd eat the man from the inside out. He made prisoners doubt their own minds, made their brains work against them. Naruto watched with interest as Ibiki tore the man's mind apart, leaving him a stuttering mess that spilled whatever information he knew. As the man was hauled away, Ibiki turned to his audience and smirked. The bear of a man put his arms behind his back and strode toward Anko and her new pupil. So brat, enjoy the show. Naruto looked up at the man, but he didn't grin like he usually would. I can't say it was something I'm used to, Ibiki-san. You broke that man's mind. Ibiki nodded and turned to Anko. Is Hokage-sama sure he's ready for this line of work? Anko shrugged, offering no real answer. Ibiki sighed and turned back to the whiskered blonde before him. It wasn't his job to question orders from the Hokage. His job was to follow them. Whatever. Now then, Naruto, I'm here to help Anko show you the finer points of interrogation. I know it's not a glamorous part of being a shinobi, but it is a necessary part and everyone has to do it at some point. I'm not of the crowd that believes we should shield our young shinobi from this fact, but I'm only one vote among thousands. You are going to be my flagship example of why we should introduce it earlier. When Anko and I are through with you, you'll be able to get information from almost anyone. Naruto nodded, still not happy with the situation. Anko looked down at him and let out a groan. Look brat, Ibiki just told you it's a necessary evil. You don't have to enjoy it to realize that it has to be done. These assholes aren't gonna just give up the information voluntarily. Naruto thought for a moment and glanced up at the two. What about the Yamanakas? They can enter a mind, can't they? Wouldn't that be easier? Ibiki frowned and Anko snorted at that. Naruto wasn't happy that his idea was dismissed so easily. Anko decided to elaborate a bit more. We've tried that before brat. It's a good idea until someone with a strong mind comes along and overpowers the Yamanaka while they're inside the other's mind. We lost some good ninjas that way, valuable ninjas. It isn't worth the risk. Naruto frowned and nodded. He hadn't thought of that. Ibiki saw this quickly going downhill and decided to get back on track. Look Naruto, you've seen my way of doing things. In a little while, Anko is going to show you her way. The trick is to make up your own way of getting information. It's just like any other facet of ninja training. You take what you learn and you make it your own. There is no set way to do things. We might as well get this over with while you're here. Anko, tell them to bring in the next one. Anko nodded quickly and bounced out of the room like a kid on a sugar high. Ibiki sighed and grabbed Naruto by the shoulder, maneuvering the boy to a different part of the room. My way is different from Anko's, as I've told you. I prefer to break the mind, she prefers to break the body. But, just because my way doesn't leave physical marks, doesn't mean I don't do damage that isn't irreparable. Bones can heal, minds can't. My way is actually more detrimental to enemy ninja. It just doesn't show right away. Naruto nodded and watched as Anko came in humming happily with a man in tow. She shoved the man down in the chair and strapped him in. The man looked around the room and settled on Naruto's small form. He turned to Anko and growled. You people are sick, making a child watch this. He doesn't look old enough to even be a genin yet. Anko just grinned as she laid out her weapons of choice. After several minutes she threw a kunai and it lodged itself into the man's shoulder. He winced and ground his teeth when Anko appeared before him and twisted the knife, a sickening grin plastered on her face. That is my pupil over there by my colleague. He's here to learn how to do this properly, so that when the time comes, others won't have to. I appreciate you helping him learn. Now then, let's continue shall we? Naruto watched intently as she beat the man, cut the man, bled him. She used her snake summons to bite him, swell him up like a balloon and then drained him of the poison. By the time the session was over, Naruto was a bit green in the face, but he held firm and watched the entire procession. Ibiki couldn't help but be a little proud of the boy. Not many could stomach watching Anko work. Anko wiped the blood off her kunai and dismissed her summons, before looking towards Naruto and found the boy still standing on his feet but wavering slightly. So, he hadn't thrown up. That was a good sign. He still looked sick though. She crossed the room and Ibiki left to tell the ninjas on duty to dispose of the man. He had spilled his guts, literally, of everything he had known about what his village was doing. Naruto had to admit, the two were good at what they did. He just didn't know if he would be. His head snapped up to meet Anko's gaze when she laid her hands on his shoulders and for once she looked, genuinely proud of him. Anko smiled at him and bent down to his level. That was hard to watch, huh brat? Not as subtle as Ibiki, but I got the information and in the end, that's all that matters. I don't like mind games. I've had enough of those in my life. I'd rather take the straightforward way to get what I want. You don't have to take either of our paths. Like Ibiki told you, find your own. Naruto nodded and took a deep breath to hold in his discomfort. Ibiki came back and patted him on the head. You did well Naruto. I guess having taken a life already gives you an edge above other kids in this area. We'll have you sit in on a few more sessions, take part in some, and then, when we think you're ready, we'll have you conduct your own. Will you supervise me? Of course. We'll watch from the wall, but you'll conduct the interrogation. We'll only jump in if necessary. Naruto was glad for that knowledge. At least he wouldn't be alone on his first time. 4 months passed and Naruto had come far in all he was taught. His ability with his Kekkei Genkei was superb. He could go in and out of objects at will, move through solids at his full running speed and was, if Ibiki had his way, a shoo-in to take over for the man when he retired as the head of interrogation. Not that Naruto wanted it. He was already being groomed for other things as well, namely Hokage. His friends at school were worried about him. He would come in looking dead tired and flop down in his chair, but by the time Iruka arrived, he would be attentive again. It was strange, but other than that life was normal. Hinata and Naruto had gotten over their embarrassing moment with the kiss and everything was right with the world. Naruto was having a rare day off. Anko was off doing something besides torturing him, Asuma was on a date with someone, and Sarutobi had told him to take it easy. He had decided to look up his friends since it was the weekend and there was no school. Fortunately for him, they had decided to look him up instead, and they had a new addition in tow. Naruto blinked when he saw the fuzzy white thing running alongside Kiba. The group came to a stop and Kiba beamed as his new friend leapt into his arms. Naruto, say hello to Akamaru. He's gonna be my partner from now on. Akamaru, this is Naruto. The little pup jumped down and walked up to Naruto cautiously, one paw in front of the other, and sniffed his leg before leaping back and barking at Kiba. Yeah, I know he smells like a fox. I don't know why, he just does. He's a cool guy though. Naruto gave the dog boy a blank stare and looked down at the now wagging puppy. Did you just talk with your dog? Yeah, so. Naruto knelt down and patted the puppy's head, making it lean into the touch. Nothing. I just didn't know you could do that. I know Kuromaru can talk, but Akamaru obviously can't. Just wanted to know how that worked. Kiba shrugged and picked Akamaru up, setting him down on his head. Don't know. Same way Shino communicates with his bugs, I guess. Just do. Now come on. It's the first weekend you've had off in ages from Hokage-sama and you can relax with us. We're gonna go eat at Ikiraku's to celebrate getting my Ninken. How about it? Naruto grinned and stepped up beside Hinata and Shino, chatting with the two all the way to the restaurant while Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba joined in. Nothing could ruin his day. The group, now smaller because Choji, Shikamaru, and Shino were dragged away reluctantly by their parents for other duties, sat enjoying the steamy goodness that was a bowl of Ikiraku's ramen. Kiba and Hinata kept up a small conversation while Naruto chugged unbelievable amounts of ramen, keeping Tsuki and Ayame quite busy in the kitchen. Naruto was the happiest he'd been in a while. No prisoners to worry about torturing, no getting cut up to satisfy a certain sensei's bloodlust, no practicing till he dropped, just a laid-back day spent with his friends. He was just about to suggest that they go do something else when Anko appeared in a poof of smoke, her eyes quickly settling on Naruto. Oh good, you're here. You, me, now. Come on, we gotta go. Before he could protest, she grabbed him by the arm and shunshined away. Kiba turned to Hinata and blinked. Is it just me or does that kid never have a say in what he does? Hinata sighed, sad that her friend was gone again. He probably wouldn't be back today and they wouldn't see him till the next class day. She giggled as Akamaru lapped up what Naruto had left in his bowl and stood to leave when they both heard a coughing noise and turned to find Tsuki with his arms crossed. And who's paying for all this? Kiba looked at Hinata and she had the same annoyed look he knew he was wearing. Both pretty much had the same thought. I'm gonna kill him. Naruto finally regained his footing as they stopped inside the Hokage office. He glanced around quickly to find an Anbu, Ibiki, and his grandfather occupying the space. Sarutobi nodded to Anko and bade them stand at attention. Now then, time is of the essence. A prisoner has escaped who we believe may be working for the enemy. You four are to chase him down and stop him from leaving Fire Country. Use whatever means necessary but take him alive if possible. Naruto looked around and found everyone's faces quite stern. Cautiously, he asked the question that kept tugging at the back of his mind. Sensei, why am I here? Anko grinned and clapped him on the back. This is that mission I was talking about, brat. You're going to catch this guy and then you're going to interrogate him. If he can't be taken, you'll eliminate him. Plain and simple. But Anko-sensei, I'm not ready. You're ready. You're more than ready. You've been ready for weeks. Now let's go. We've got a bit of ground to cover. As the three adults turned to leave, Naruto shouted for them to wait. Hold on. I don't know anything about who we're chasing and what is an Anbu doing here. Sarutobi sighed and tapped his pipe. He should never have taught the boy protocol or mission parameters. The Anbu is here to help evaluate your skills, Naruto. As for the person, I believe you'll have a vested interest in him. Naruto cut his eyes to his grandfather. Who is it? Mizuki. A look of understanding slowly spread over Naruto's face. Mizuki was a dangerous person and psychotic as well. If he was working for the enemy, he had to be stopped. Naruto nodded and stepped back beside Anko. Sarutobi reached into his desk and pulled out a plain, blank Anbu mask and a dark cloak. Wear this, Naruto. You're not an official ninja yet, so we can't have you being seen in any capacity. Naruto took the mask and placed it over his face, before slinging the cloak over his shoulders, and turned to Anko. She took in how he looked and decided she liked it. Well brat, are you ready? The mask bobbed up and down and she could feel his resolve to steal itself. Hi sensei. I'm ready. The exciting stuff is the next chapter. Sorry if this one felt a little talky, but it was necessary to set up the rest of the story. See you next time, let me know what you think.
Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.